I've got really less time, so I'm gonna try to really quick. Sorry if I miss a point. So yeah, well, as we are done with the second normal form, creation of tables. We're gonna populate them now quick. So we go to PostgreSQL. We create sequence, student ID sequence, and professor ID sequence. These are for creating sequences that we're gonna need for student ID and professor IDs, which are gener- um, generated generated randomly by the software, and we're not doing it manually. So creating a sequence. So this is the creating sequence, student ID sequence. This is the name for the sequence that we're going to use it later. This is the start point, which is 14021, and for increment by one. For each instance of student name, we're going to increment it by one, and no max value. This means that you can add students as much as you want. Does not limit, and no cycle, as this indicates that there will be no repetition. There will be no copies of student IDs, because student IDs are obviously unique elements. There's no cycle, so there's no re-evaluation, re-assigning of those values to another value, to another additional values elements. So we did the same thing for professor ID sequence and student ID sequence. So, and I go with insert into students, student ID, and student name. This is for populating process of student table. These three lines indicate that process. We say insert into students, student ID, student name. These two are the columns that we are inserting the data into, and you can view these two columns in the students here, student ID and student name. Then we select next value, so to student ID sequence. This is the thing that I mentioned here, sequence generation by every instance of student name, and we say enrolled students. Enrolled students is from where? It is from the course students columns. You see here, enrolled students. We take the student names, and we take the generated sequence, insert them into newly created table, student ID and student ID, student name, respectively. It gotta be by order. And then this the from keyword indicates that where this whole data is taken from, and they say select enrolled students from course students. Uh, but as it gotta be distinct, uh, I mean, in enrolled students, there are many students that are not unique. There are copies of them. There are three elements, three eigen, the same, same with the same surname. They are same person, but just copied, repeated two times, and we don't need that. We're just gonna need a pure, unique values of the names and the IDs. So we are saying this. You're using this thing keyword here to remove the copies and only bring here the unique values with unique names and assign unique IDs to them. With this, if you run this three rows of data, you're gonna have the student table, and you can validate um, each of your execution with select from this with this line students or professor or whatever. Select from students, and you see there are 26 instances of student, 26, only 26. But in Roland, it is about 30, I guess. But here there are 26 students, as this does not contain copies of the student instances. So then we use the same thing in sorting into professors, professor name. It's almost same with the students. Not almost, but completely the same. We don't need this alias. It's optional. You can remove it. Uh, and now, yeah, it's just the same, just for the professor ID or professor name. Then we go forward, and I'm gonna copy here the courses table creation of course. Initial, I've split it into two parts to make it more obvious, to make it easier, at least for me. In the first part, I say insert into courses, course ID, and course name. This is very much same with these two, and by these we are creating a uh, a table that has a course ID and course name, but does not have a professor ID assigned to it. It will be null. I can show you. Select from courses and run it. You see, the professor ID is null because we have not inserted any data regarding the professor ID, but only course name and course ID. For that, I will use update keyword here now. Update keyword. By the update keyword, I'm gonna update the table exactly professor ID, and I will utilize this piece of code and explain. So update courses, set professor ID, p professor ID. What is p here? So p is just like you can think of it as a temporary file, temporary value that we have used in C or Java programming as a subquery to make the things easier. So p professor ID, we've got the p professor ID, professor ID set to professor ID, and from distinct, again C is the same thing but just for the courses. Select distinct C course ID, C course name, p professor ID from course student C, and now join the keyword join professors p on them in the matches that C professor, just the professor and professor name matches with each other. Where we're just gonna match them each other. Where courses ID, course ID, B course ID, and course name uh, matches with each other. In the only in these instances where keyword is just like the if keyword in programming. Um, where on those instances we match the exact, for example, if the professor ID is 301 and the professor name is Afag, then the for that professor ID and for that professor name we have to find the course name, course ID that is uh, that indicate that professor and professor ID. And once we run these update uh, update update lines, we have the professor ID updated. You can check it out now. You see now every respective professor ID regarding the course and course name and course ID is reflected here. Cool. Now we have done the courses part as well. The only last part is the remaining part is the what enrollments. I bring the code quick. I'm doing the same thing for enrollments, I guess. There's just let's move it here. Okay. I'm first creating the table, info, then creating subqueries here for enrolled for students and course students tables, and the query returned successfully, and then I update it for update. Okay. So where enormous E subquery created set the grade to course students grade, and from course students CS, this is the like just like the temp, where this condition is met. I'm gonna select student ID from students table, where this condition is met, and but once you run it, now this is the table is updated. You can view the table as from select on enrollments. I got to a quick So you can see the grades and the student IDs and course IDs, primary key, composite primary key and grade assigned to those. Now, yeah, I've mentioned the validation things, well, lines. Next part will be the manual population of manually populating the tables, and I'll be back.